I remember when I studied Latin at school, there was this old Roman saying, "Carpe diem," seize the day, live now. It has become famous through the film from 1989, The Dead Poets Society, where the teacher says to the boys, "Carpe diem, seize the day, boys, make your lives extraordinary." It has a ring of something positive, future possibilities. But when you go to the Roman poet Horace, who actually wrote this from the beginning, he had a much more pessimistic view. He said, seize the day, and not trusting anything about tomorrow. Did you also know that Jesus, who was born when Horace died, that he also had things to say about this topic? And did you know that the Bible expresses the same thought, but in different words and for a different purpose? Stay with us. We'll be back a little later.
I'm Des Rafferty, Principal of the Adventist Discovery Centre here in the United Kingdom. We have 15 courses available, 10 Bible and 5 health courses that encourage individuals to continue their journey of discovery with God. If you'd like to join us, you can visit our website at discoveronline.org.uk. If you like what you see, then we would invite you to start your journey of discovery with the Adventist Discovery Centre.
There are not many things that you can be sure of these days. But one thing you can be sure of, and that is that now is now. Now is a very important word, although it is small. It is a word that helps us define time. It separates now from yesterday or the past, and also from the future. This contrast between now and then in the future is implied in this famous saying by Horace, "Seize the day, carpe diem." He was occupied with now as the good time and saw the future as the bad time. And the Romans thought a lot about how they could spend their lives. They philosophized about it. As for us, there were lots of disease, lots of wars, and when people died, which usually in those days happened very early, the question was, what now? Another Roman writer, Seneca, wrote a book about the brevity of life. And he tried to glorify the present and warned against putting your hopes in the future. This is what he says. People eagerly engage themselves in improving their lives, but their aim at the future involves a great loss. It means every day forward. It takes away the present while making promises of the uncertain things that are to come. The greatest obstacle for a real life is the expectation that depends on tomorrow, while losing the day that is. You arrange and care about what lies in the hands of an uncertain destiny, but what you already hold in your hand, you let go. Very short is the life of those who are always busy. But there was another part of the Roman Empire in those days. The Jews in Judea. They were reading the book of Isaiah, and in that book they found this saying, "Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we will die." This is a quotation of what people say when they don't care about God. And the same words were used by the early believers in Jesus Christ when they sought to explain the new and very hopeful future that they found in God through their faith. In his letter to the believers in the Greek city of Corinth, Paul says, "If the dead are not raised at all, why do we endanger ourselves every hour? If the dead are not raised, then let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die." Believers in Jesus contrast the careless and hopeless way of dealing with now simply by eating and drinking, with a careful and hopeful future that they have in their faith. Believers in Jesus would rephrase "seize the day" and say, "Seize the day and keep it throughout the future." A future which is full of hope, full of confidence, something that you cannot do without. And this is something that the Christians were so happy about, that they were willing to die for their faith. They were martyrs who were sacrificed to the wild animals just because this future in their eyes was so glorious. You see, Jesus had taught his followers how to get there. His way of saying "seize the day" was to say it in this way, as we read in Matthew 6, verse 34. He says, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." When you look at the context of this saying, you will find there in Matthew chapter 6, verses 25 to 34, that he's talking about two very important things for us. He talks about worry and how we will find inner peace. He says that worry comes from seeking things that are not the most important. By looking to material gains, money, clothes, food, and all that sort of thing, we miss out on what matters most. And then he says that peace of mind comes from seeking the things that are most important. What then is most important? He says, we read in Matthew 6, verse 33, "Seek first your heavenly Father's kingdom and his righteousness, and all these other things will be given to you as well." And as we go back in his speech, further back in the context, we find that God's kingdom is a situation where God is in charge, where he rules over the now and the future. He gives bread for tomorrow, and he gives it today. He accepts us as we are, and he protects us from evil. He brings his kingdom to the world, and he brings heaven down to earth. This is expressed in the Lord's Prayer in Matthew 6, verses 9 to 13. We also find, as we read the context here in his Sermon on the Mount, that God's righteousness is an enormous love for people, one that is so strong that he loves enemies and people who really don't deserve to be loved. This is described in Matthew 5, verses 43 to 48. And I thought perhaps it would be good if we would just read it. Matthew 5, verses 43 and the following. "You have heard that it was said, 'Love your neighbor and hate your enemy.' But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your brothers, what are you doing more than others? Do not even the pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect." And we might add, in love. Now, while Horace and Seneca, those Roman thinkers, were doing their best with the now and were very pessimistic about the future, we see that in Jesus' teaching, it's not at all a question of time, of now and then. Not at all a question of seizing the day because tomorrow we will die, or tomorrow has nothing good to bring to us. It's not at all a matter of time, of now or then. It is simply a matter of who. Who do we relate to? It's a matter of God and our relationship with him. And I want to ask you, what do you think about that?